Watch this.
I'm just not on my phone as much because I'm not used to it. I think it's kind of combating that like generational phone addiction, which is, I think is really good.
For Capitol High School kids, using their phones less equals raising their grades more. We're hearing more positive feedback on school cell phone policies, a major change. Something else you'll have to put down, any candidate gear that you would want to bring to the polls with you. Yep, a viewer called in asking if he could wear his Trump hat while he voted. The answer? Well, it's actually a legality. From the battle at the polls to the battle on the ice, the Idaho Steelheads are taking on the Toledo Walleye tonight, which is interesting because walleye are now being targeted by Idaho Fish and Game. We'll explain this happenstance just ahead. We've stepped in a few of the high schools in the West Ada School District to see how their first year with district-wide cell phone bans is going. Students and staff say distractions are down and social interactions are up, which is why the school board wanted to pass the ban in the first place. Over in the Boise School District, they did not pass a ban, but some of the individual schools, like Capitol High School, they created their own rules for cell phone use in the classroom. Aspen Schumpert stops by Capitol today to find out what changes they've seen so far and how they're happening.
We're just 10 weeks into the school year, and Capitol High School students say they're already feeling a change in priorities.
You're not as disconnected. Like everyone from peer to peer to teacher, is just talking more, interacting more, and also just school seems to become more of a priority, which is really nice.
This year, a school-wide rule. Students and teachers are to put their phones away during class time.
Being seniors now, and kind of like watching how like everyone else interacts, like it kind of feels like so full circle.
Many students were hesitant about the ban at first, but pleased with what they're seeing now.
It just changes hard, and I think it's easy to complain about something that gets taken away, but my grades are great. Like a lot of my friends say that they have seen changes in their grades.
First quarter grades are out, and the report shows A's and B's have risen, while C's, D's, and F's have gone down for the whole school.
I totally think it's because of phones.
My grades are the best they've been like out of all of high school, compared to like sophomore and junior year. Like I feel like I'm killing it, and I feel like not having my phone is a part of that because I didn't necessarily think I was someone who was distracted by it, but you don't even realize like you totally are. You're on it all the time, and it's just like in the back of your mind. So it's nice to like be completely disconnected and be really able to focus on school.
Nancy Stevens, who's been a teacher at Capitol for more than 30 years, says she's seeing an increase in her students' pre-calc scores.
I took like the average on my first test last year and my first test this year and compared the two, and it was like overwhelmingly better. And I was having a 77 class average is fine, like that's decent. But then this year it was an 85, which that's awesome.
And you think the rise in grades has something to do with the cell phone policy?
Yeah. Well, certainly, obviously I'm looking at two different groups of kids, but I like to account for the things like I have no late homework, their homework is turned in, and that also contributes to higher grades. So I feel like it's all kind of connected.
She says in the last few years, classrooms were quiet, with students spending a lot more time on their devices.
Every student had one, every teacher had one. Like it just seemed like it was impossible to regulate. And so you kind of just accepted it.
But she says this year, the noise is back.
They're talking to each other, they're engaged in the lesson. Even when I'll teach my math lesson, maybe they have 15 minutes left to work on their homework assignment, they, instead of grabbing their phone and scrolling for 15 minutes, they get started. And in some cases, that's all they needed. They finished, they don't have homework.
I've seen the benefit, and I think a lot of people have, and I actually, I prefer it now. It's nice to be disconnected during the class.
The students you just saw gave this report to the school board. The students say they will continue to keep track on how the school grades are doing to see if there are any more improvements. The math teacher did say since teachers are also having to put their devices away, she misses some of that taking pictures of fun lessons and documenting some of the things that are happening in the classroom, but overall is pleased with the positive changes that she's seeing and distractions being taken away.
I think that's fair too. You know, if you're going to ask the students to put them away, the teachers need to put them away. I also appreciate, as a former student, that they're actually looking at the impacts of this and they don't just have a blanket rule and moving on. So that's interesting.
And we were kind of talking about that before of, is this doing what it was supposed to do? And so it's nice to see these impacts and see students also involved in seeing what these changes are with the cell phone bans.
Because if you talk to some students, they say this is the end of the world, but maybe the data says differently.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Aspen. Appreciate that. Okie doke, folks, this is one of my favorite times of the day. Time to answer some of your viewer questions here on a Friday. Yesterday, a Boise voter called us about his early voting experience, and he had a good question. Can you wear candidate gear to the polls? Take a listen.
Hello, this is John Anderson. I was an early voter yesterday in Boise before I left town, and I was wearing my Trump hat when I went in, and I was asked to remove or turn the hat around. And I just didn't know if that was something that they're doing to everyone, or you're not allowed to wear a candidate's clothing or attire when you go to vote.
Okay, so this is a great question. We appreciate the voicemail. So to answer your question, no, you're not allowed to wear candidate gear to the polls. According to Idaho law, voting locations are considered neutral, nonpartisan places. According to the Secretary of State's website, for example, voteidaho.gov, that means you cannot wear or bring anything to vote that promotes a candidate, party, or issue on the ballot. So that includes hats, shirts, buttons, stickers, and even flags on your car, because this law falls under electioneering. Idaho code says within a polling place or building where an election is being held, or 250 feet within a polling or voting location, you cannot do any electioneering, which does include advocating for or against a candidate, and that means you can't wear the shirt. So if you do happen to do any electioneering, intentionally or not, like wearing a candidate's gear to the poll, Idaho law says that poll workers and election officials will address it and ask you to remove the items or contact law enforcement if there's a need. Hopefully there's not. So if you do violate the law, your first two violations are infractions with a fine of $300. But if you do it a third time in subsequent times, that's a misdemeanor. So we're happy that you got off easy this time. They were very kind to just ask you to turn it around. But next time, just leave it in the car. But now you know. So there you go. There are a lot of exciting things happening this weekend, from prescription drug takebacks to taking some candy at Zoo Boise. Adrielle Tackett has it all today in the 411.
Tomorrow is National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, and some of our local cities are participating. You can drop off unused prescription or medicine you have to reduce illegal drug use, overdoses, and trafficking. In Caldwell, drop-off is tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Caldwell Police Department. In Meridian, you can also drop off tomorrow from 10 until 2 at the front parking lot of the Republic Services Building or at the Meridian Police Department in their disposal box in the Central Station lobby. It's official! In-N-Out Burger is open in Boise. The California-based fast food chain has finally opened its doors in its Boise location. So far, there hasn't been much of a crowd compared to the first Idaho location the California-based fast food chain opened nearly a year ago at the Village at Meridian. So, tonight's a good night if you're craving burgers for dinner. Also tonight, the Boise State Broncos play on the road at UNLV. Don't miss our Bronco Roundup Game Day show right before kickoff at 7 p.m. right here on KTVB and KTVB+. Then, the game is at 8:30 Mountain Time on CBS Sports Network. If you want to know even more about the game, just text BSU to 208-321-5614, and we'll send a link to our game day guide directly to your phone. Here's another treat for you. Zoo Boise is hosting Boo at the Zoo tomorrow from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Last admission is at 4. Throw on your favorite costume and get ready for a day of candy, costume contests, and of course, a chance to see zoo animals enjoying their Halloween treats. Admission is free for zoo members. You can find more Halloween events near you on our website, ktvb.com. And a friendly reminder, KTVB's 7 Cares Coat Drive is happening right now. Now, through November 16th, coat drop-off locations are set up at any Fred Meyer or Cap Ed Credit Union in the Treasure and Magic Valleys. All donations will be given to children and teens in need through the Salvation Army. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Audrielle Tackett.
When I say the city of trees, what do you think of? Well, I usually think of Idaho's capital city, and Boise, yes, we know, home to a major ecosystem of trees and with it, a collection of parks, big and small across the city. And if it seems like, boy, Boise's got a lot of parks, they seem to be doing it right. Well, in that department specifically, national experts will agree with you. Coming up this Sunday morning on Viewpoint, I chat with Boise Mayor Lauren McLean and Director of Parks and Rec Doug Holloway about a brand new report released by the national nonprofit, the Trust for Public Land. It focuses on the work Boise has and is doing with park investment. And we know the mental and physical benefits of having a park nearby, going to spend some time there with the kids. And Boise has them in almost every neighborhood. But something you might have not known about the parks, they're actually a major economic driver. Join us for a deep dive into the park system and what the future of parks could look like in Boise.
Our goal is to make sure that every kiddo in this community can run out their door and get to a park safely by foot within 10 minutes. We are 73% of the way there, which means that 27% of the folks in Boise still can't, but we are using that metric to meet that goal. So figuring out where we need to buy little parcels, how we need to create pathways to make it.
So we're going to dive in with the mayor and the director of Parks and Rec on how they have their big board and how they try to figure out how they can put parks in every neighborhood. So join us Sunday morning at 9 right here on 7 for Viewpoint. You can always catch it on the KTVB Plus platforms too. There is a thing called happenstance, and it's a very fancy word for coincidence, but we found a happenstance this week. Idaho Fish and Game sending a message about walleye. They're out of control in some areas, and these fish need to be caught and eaten or whatever, just not put back in the water. Well, the Idaho Steelhead's opponent on the ice tonight, the Toledo Walleye. It's a perfect storm of news on a Friday. Anything else we should be tracking to end the week? Text us about it, or really anything related to or around the 208. You can text us right now, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208. We'll get to some of these live at the end of the show. It's hockey season here in Boise, and the Idaho Steelheads are off to a great start, 2-0, and the action continues tonight at the Idaho Central Arena. Steelheads take on the Toledo Walleye in the second game of their three-game set. The Steelheads took down the Walleye 5-2 on Wednesday, but the battle of the aquatic species continues. One native to Idaho and one trying to exterminate from certain areas. In the same battle that the Steelheads were facing in May of 2023. That's when we asked our angler expert, Jordan Rodriguez, what's a better fish? Here's the answer in this week's 208 Redial.
They're not really wanted, no. They're native to the Midwest. Toledo, right on Lake Erie there, is probably like the walleye capital of the world. So they are not naturally occurring in our ecosystem.
They have teeth.
They have teeth. Yep, sharp teeth. They're a predator.
God.
Yep.
You do a lot of fishing.
Yeah, lots.
What's a better fight, walleye or steelhead?
Steelhead, hands down. So a steelhead, especially when most anglers target a steelhead, is when they're coming back from the ocean. And that tends to be a very large fish, you know, anywhere from 2 feet to 3 feet long. Very strong, powerful fish. They've made that migration all the way to the ocean, all the way back. And the fight is, you know, is pretty insane on a steelhead. The walleye, even the big ones, are not particularly known as fighters. I've heard it compared to reeling in a wet sock. So a steelhead is definitely more of a sporting fish and more of a fight.
What about eating?
Yeah, the eating. Walleye are considered one of the best freshwater eating fish in North America. Steelhead is really good eating too. You know, most people like those smoked, or it's just a big trout. So they're good eating, but I would give the edge to walleye as far as being a little bit better table fare. Delicious. Never pass up on a chance for some fried walleye.
Okay, steelhead get the edge catching them. Walleye get the edge eating them.
Yeah.
Overall, what's a better fish, steelhead or walleye?
I'm gonna go steelhead on this one. You know, maybe a little hometown bias there, but also the steelhead is just the anadromous fish, in my opinion, are just kind of one of nature's miracles, nature's wonders.
Bottom line is, steelhead got this one, right? Up 2 games?
Up 2 games to none. You know, they've been the best team in the league all season. A formidable opponent, just like walleye in the wild with those teeth, but hopefully the steelheads can stay on top and pull this one out.
And I mean, for Jordan, that's just science, right? No bias. Steelheads would go on to win that playoff series, winning 4 out of the 5 games in that 2023 series, advancing on to the finals. They finished last season with the 3rd best record in the ECHL. And with the series fresh in the water tonight, we wanted to ask a different fish expert about walleye. Idaho Fish and Game, by the way, this week they announced they're urging people to kill any walleye that they catch in the salmon and steelhead rivers because they're a non-native species and they're creating some issues. And they also seem to be multiplying at a much higher rate than previously here in Idaho. But a question we had, how are these walleye getting to areas they're not supposed to be in? John Casanelli, the Andromedus fish manager with the Idaho Fish and Game Department, he explains, by the way, there are some places that you can find walleye and they are supposed to be there in Idaho.
We do stock walleye in 3 waters in Idaho. They go into Salmon Falls Creek, Oakley Reservoir, and Oneida Reservoir. We have places where we specifically put them. Those are closed systems where we provide opportunities for anglers to catch walleye. But in a lot of these other systems, more than likely they're being moved by folks that want to have them there as a fisheries resource. And so you get people, bucket biologists is a term you often hear, where people just want fish at certain places that they like to fish for, and they'll move live fish from different water sources and release those fish there, which is illegal and something we discourage, but it happens unfortunately.
Last year, only 19 walleye were caught in the Snake and Salmon River, but there have already been 60 reports of walleye caught this year. Anglers, again, they are asked to kill those walleyes that are caught in those areas and report those sightings to Fish and Game, or call 208-750-4228 to report those. But what about a different kind of fish killer? The steelheads. Yes, we caught up with goaltender Brian Thompson, who says, like Idaho's battle with the walleye, Idaho's battle with the walleye on the ice could be a tough test.
Yeah, Sheener said it on the Wednesday game. This is probably the closest we'll get to playoff hockey in October, so it's a good challenge for us early in the season to see where we stack up against some of these top teams in the other divisions, other conferences, so it's definitely a good challenge.
And the puck drops at 7:10 tonight. Tomer will be the starting goaltender for Idaho between the pipes. You can catch the game at the Idaho Central Arena, or if you can't make it downtown, no worries. You can watch tonight's game and all the Steelies home games on 24/7. That's 7.2 over the air.
The changing of the leaves is just so beautiful. I'm so glad we get to enjoy them this time of year. Hopefully you don't have too many of those to tackle on the ground, but the bright side is this weekend the weather will be cooperating with you for the most part if you need to tackle that this weekend. So Saturday we're looking on the dry side. Those temperatures will be mild. However, we start to feel some changes starting on Sunday in more of the northern zones. We'll expect to see some rain showers earlier in the day, and then in the afternoon and evening hours that will filter through to some of the valley and some more of those eastern areas. And then as we switch to Monday, the showers will scale back a little bit, but we will start to track some mountain snow showers as well. But the good news is for the majority of the weekend, things are looking pretty good. So in Boise in particular, we've got those highs close to 70 degrees tomorrow and then closer to the mid 60s on Sunday before we start to see the significantly cooler changes that will be ahead with this system. So more of the moisture again will be working its way in from the west, and those initial showers will favor eastern Oregon and areas like McCall, and then all of that will slowly start to filter down to the southeast. And you can see again a little bit of the snow showers in the mountain spots. However, we don't expect accumulations to be heavy. These will be quite light, and you can see that moisture finally making its way towards the Magic Valley area closer to 9 o'clock. And you can see those cooling temperatures starting on Monday, and yes, towards the end of your 7-day forecast, multiple chances of a rain and snow mix in the valleys.
All right, let's take a look at some of your comments to end the week. We will start with This one from Aaron in Boise. Someone wearing a hat in support of a candidate should have to remove it completely, not just turn it around. That makes no sense. In fact, more people will see the back of the hat than the front. Yes, they are supposed to ask you to remove the hat. They were very kind in the instance we talked about. But yes, Idaho law says you can't turn it around. You just need to wear it out or take it out. Okay, we hear a lot about Prop 1. What about the amendment to Idaho Constitution, HER number 5? It's confusing. Sandra, yes, if you go to ktvb.com, we have in-depth coverage. Long story short, it's adding that you must be a citizen, which is already a law. Citizen to vote, it's adding it to the Constitution. Okay, Jay in Boise, cell phones are a significant addiction for everybody. Think about that. I think you're right. There's that positive feedback loop that so many people get from playing and doing all that. So yeah, they're an addiction. I don't think people think about it that way. The cell phone should be banned for anyone working, not just teachers. People are being paid to work, not scroll on their phone. Thank you, Teresa. I've seen similar comments about our tax dollars being used. Okay, on to some fishing. Never saw or caught a walleye, but I did once hook with a wet stock. Exciting. That's Chris from Mountain Ho. Wet sock. Yes, you got a wet sock. Those are very hard to catch. Okay, Robin Meridian says walleye will eat steelhead and salmon smolts, babies. Wow, so those steelhead and salmon are in danger. Boise Parks and Rec, yes, along the river also serve as a floodwater dissipation function. Kudos to Boise Parks and Rec. Yes, we'll see you next week. It's almost time for the election.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.